Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Tutelage, a guide to learner. Here, this is Sriparna. Hope all of you are doing well. So, we have already discussed some topics on microeconomics for a long time, but today we are going to discuss another most important topics of Indian economy, that is the problem of poverty in India. Obviously, this session is going to be a second part of this chapter because we have already explain the first part, which includes the definition of poverty and the some topics on poverty also. But today we will discuss another some new topics on this chapter. Okay, so learner, let's take a look at some of topics we will discuss today. The first point, that is first topic, obviously, that is causes of poverty. The second one, that is vicious circle of poverty. The third concept, that is government policy of poverty eradication. And the last topic, that is different programs for poverty. So learner, let's begin the session and move on the main slide. We can see the definition of poverty, obviously, because we have already discussed what do you mean by a poverty. But before going to the discussion on causes of poverty and the poverty eradication program, so at first we have to know what is poverty. So basically, Indian economy has made significant headway in moving from underdevelopment to development, from poverty to prosperity. However, since 1951, but despite this, Indian economy still exhibits certain features which characterize an underdeveloped economy. So, one of the most important feature of economy, that is low level of income, and low level of income basically indicates a low per capita income. So, we all know that low per capita income indicates low economic welfare of the people and existence of poverty in the country. So, it indicates existence of poverty. So that is the basic relationship between low level of income and poverty. So here we can see the poverty is a state or condition in which a person of community lacks the financial resources essential for a minimum standard of living. So he or she lacks the financial resources to meet their basic standard of living. So what are the basic need of human being? That is food, shelter and clothes. So those are unable to get the minimum basic necessities of life. So those group of people is known as poor people. I think uh, what do you mean by, and poverty is basically a state or condition of the poor people. Poverty is basically related to that. Okay, so that's why I think this is clear what is poverty and what is called the poor people. In my previous session, we have already told the nature of poverty. So that's why it is very, very important to analyze the causes of poverty in the country. So, the factors responsible for the existence of poverty in the country are of diverse nature and ranging from the economic, social, cultural to political and administrative causes. So the important causes are discussed here. So the first point, that is one of the most important point, that is rapid population growth among the poor. Okay, so we have already told what do you mean by poor. So rapid population growth is one of the most important cause of poverty in the country. So high rate of population growth in India, particularly among the poor section of people, is responsible for the problem of poverty in the country. Population growth among poor people is high because of their illiteracy, traditional attitudes, lack of family planning practices, and preference for the male child, obviously, which is one of the most important reason uh, for rapid population growth. Okay, so obviously with the low level of employment and the large sized family members, so income per head, so per capita income of the population is low and inadequate to meet even their basic minimum needs of the people. So thus it is the it is one it is the basic cause of poverty, and the so basically which leads to high growth rate of population among the poor and the first population growth, and which leads to poverty. The poor people are therefore caught in a vicious circle of poverty, and we have already told. So in my previous session, basically we have already told what you meaning of nature and extent of poverty. So we all know that it is very important to analyze the causes of poverty in the country. So some factors are responsible for the existence of poverty in the country and which are of diverse nature. It is ranging from economic, socio-cultural to political and administrative causes. The important causes are discussed here. So one of the most important causes of poverty, that is rapid population growth among the poor. So we have already told what is the poor people. Okay, so high rate of population growth in India, particularly among the poor, is responsible for the problem of poverty in the country. Population growth among a poor people is high because of their illiteracy, traditional attitudes, lack of family planning practices, preference for the male child, etc. Obviously, with the low level of employment and the large size families, income per head of the population is low, and which indicates uh, poverty of the people. Okay, so which indicates the high growth rate of population among the poor, and it leads to the poverty also. So now we are going to the third cause of poverty, that is low education level or low rate of education. So uh, another which is one of the most important cause of poverty also. So poor people are illiterate or semi educated, and therefore they can join the low paid jobs only. So that's why it explains the low levels of income among the poor, and poor parents are not able to provide the higher education to their children. So low level of education is one of the most important cause of poverty. And now going to the fourth cause, that is inflationary rise in prices. So this is one of the most important. We all know that all points are very important, but inflationary rise in prices is one of the most important cause of poverty. The steep and continuous rise in prices, particularly of essential commodities, has added to the miseries of the poor. So sharp rise in prices has led to fall in the real income of the fixed and low income learners. So that's why it has led to fall in their purchasing power and low standard of living, and it indicates the existence of poverty. So that's why we all know that the inflationary rise in prices, rapid population growth rate among the poor section, low economic development and low educational level all are related to the existence of poverty. So that's why these are the causes of poverty also. So learner, now move on to the next point, and next point is unemployment. Okay, so we all know that unemployment is one of the most important cause of poverty. Okay, so important factor accounting for the incidence of high poverty, particularly in the rural areas, is high degree of unemployment and underemployment. The job seekers are increasing at a higher rate than increase in the employment opportunities, resulting in an increase in the unemployment. High rate of unemployment in the country has resulted from high growth rate of population, low economic growth, development strategies during the plans that gave more emphasis on the capital intensive projects than labor intensive projects. and most important, that is generation of the low employment in agriculture in recent years, etc. So no doubt some efforts have been made to promote small and cottage industry so as to generate employment, but the development of this type of small and cottage industries has not been sufficient to absorb the backlog of unemployment and the additional labor force resulting from increase in population. So high level of unemployment is responsible for lower output and hence lower income. So thus unemployment is responsible for making the problem of poverty more accurate. Okay. So now move on to the next point, that is growth strategy. So, development strategy pursued in the plans has not been designed to fight poverty. In fact, the growth strategy has kept the poor out of the development process. 2 points about this development strategy are particularly relevant in this regard. The first point is the emphasis all along till the recent years has more on the development of the capital good industry. So first point is more emphasis more emphasis on capital goods. Okay, so it has added to the problem of poverty by slowing down the growth in employment and lowering the growth in the availability of the consumer goods. I think this is clear. And now move on to the second point. Growth strategy in the agricultural sector during last 3 decades has favored the rich farmers such as landlords, gentlemen farmers, etc. So such strategy has sacrificed the interest of the vast masses of the small cultivators. I think this is clear. Growth strategy is also one of the most important causes of poverty. Next point, and that is political factors. So political structure of the country is also one of the factors accounting for the continued poverty. So political power is concentrated in the hands of the upper strata of the society, both in the urban and rural areas. There is domination of the higher caste groups even at the level of village panchayats. So economic policies are formulated to promote the interest of the richer section. Okay, interest of the richer section of the society. uh, Such as industrialists, traders, landlords, rich farmers, etc. So, poor people, particularly poor peasants, landless laborers, tribal people, slum dwellers, are sufferers in this process. So, political factors is also one of the most important cause of poverty. So, now move on to the next slide, and here we can see some causes of poverty. So, the next point, that is inadequate anti-poverty measures. Okay, so in a view of the large magnitude of the problem of poverty in the country, the anti-poverty measures taken by the government are far from the adequate. Many of these measures have been implemented half-heartedly. Some of them have been implemented in specific areas and have benefited only the selected group of persons. Though these measures are in the right directions and some success has been achieved in reducing poverty, and they haven't made a real dent in the poverty. So, the limited success of poverty alleviation programs is to a considerable extent due to faulty administration, inefficient implementing staff, undue procedural delays, lack of monitoring machinery, and lack of proper follow up. So, inadequate anti poverty measures is also one of the most important cause of poverty. And now going to the second last point, that is the socio-cultural factors. Socio-cultural setup of the country is also responsible factor for the existence of poverty in the country, like political factors. We have already discussed it. So, ranks of the poor comprise people belonging to the low caste and the tribal groups. So, they are not only poor, but they are also deprived of various privileges. So, they are the weakest section of the society. They are discriminated, tribal people are discriminated against in various ways, particularly in the rural areas. Then, sorry, they have limited access to higher education and positions of economic and political power in the society. They suffer not only from the economic perspective but also from the social and political disabilities. Chances of their vertical mobility are rather limited. So, therefore, poverty tends to perpetuate. So, socio-cultural, that's why socio-cultural factors are also one of the most important cause of poverty. And now going to the last point, that is backwardness of agriculture. So, we all know that agriculture in India has continued to be backward due to the use of primitive and less efficient techniques of production and lack of adequate inputs such as water, fertilizers, pesticides, and high yielding variety of seeds. As a result, labor and land productivity continue to be low in India. So, consequently, most of the farmers live in a state of poverty, unequal distribution of land holdings, and failure of the land reforms have added to poverty in the rural areas. So, backwardness of agriculture is also one of the most important causes. So, we have already discussed there are some causes of poverty. So, first one is unemployment and growth strategy. Second one is rapid population growth among the poor and inflationary rise in price. Third one, inequalities of income and political factors. Fourth one, low economic development and low educational level. Now going to the second next slide, so that is we can see inadequate anti-poverty measures, socio-cultural factors, and backwardness of agriculture. So if you have any problem about it, so please feel free to ask in my comment section. I will reply you, I promise. So now move on to the next concept, and that is vicious circle of poverty. It refers to a situation of self reinforcing forces. There are two sides of forces, like negative forces and the positive forces, in which there are certain factors that are related in a circular way so as to result in continuation of poverty and underdevelopment. We have already that portion. So, according to Nagse, vicious circle of poverty implies a circular constellation of forces tending to act and react upon one another in such a way as to keep a poor country in a state of poverty. So, I think a situation of this sort can be explained by taking the example of a poor person, and this will be more useful. Okay, so a poor man has not enough to eat, so therefore he is underfed. So, being underfed, his health is weak, so this means that his capacity to work and earn is low. We can see the diagrammatic representation of the vicious circle of poverty, and we can see here at the topmost level, that is low income. So low income tends to low saving. So low saving indicates the low investment in the society. Low investment indicates low per capita capital. It indicates low productivity, and then it tends to low employment. So economic level of the person goes on lowering. We can see low income to low saving to low investment, low per capita income to low per productivity, and it tends to low employment, and low employment it also tends to low income or poverty. So that means this process is circular process, and this is cumulative in nature. So in that sense, the economic level of the person goes on lowering. So this is the basic diagrammatic representation of the vicious circular poverty. I think this is clear. What do you mean by a vicious circular poverty and all? So we are done for the today's session. I hope this session will be very useful to everyone. So if you like my session, do not forget to like, share, comment, And please do some support and subscribe my channel for getting more useful sessions. And please press the bell button for getting notification from my site. Immediately I will come again with a new session. Till then, stay tuned. Thank you. Keep commenting. Happy learning.